Hello everybody and welcome to the webinar with Rachel, Gedney and myself. I'm Debra Sofia Magdalene, and tonight the webinar is about Escape the Rat Race, Journey to Freedom. And I've got a PowerPoint presentation which I'll take you through, because what we want to do is introduce ourselves to you so that you know my story and you know Rachel's story and our own journeys to freedom. So my background, how did I escape to freedom? I'll have to put my glasses back on because as you get older, you know, the eyesight just starts fading. So those will have to go back on. So I'll start in my 20s, I think. In my 20s, I had quite a high-powered job as a national admin manager for a double glazing company. And I was working long hours and travelling up and down the country. And I thought I'd made it, you know, I had the company car, nice salary, no children, out of, on partying and everything, and I thought, yeah, this is a life. But I always remember, you know, when I was at school, somebody told, I read an article in the Burnley Express about a lady who'd set up her own business in secretarial services, and that really inspired me. And I thought, you know, when I've got the experience, I'm going to do that myself. And I actually did in 1988. When my son Christopher was 7 months old, I set up Pendle SOS Secretarial and Office Services, and I run that business for 5 years, and I loved it. And you know, I could work my own hours, and I had my another child in between. You know, not Evie, Emily was born, and I always remember having at my house full of students waiting for the dissertations to be typed up. Not the dissertations, it was the applications for university, and they all had to be in by a deadline. And so I'm there with a baby, and I said, look, if you want these typing up, you're going to have to hold the baby, and which is what I did. So I sort of passed her along the line, you know, whilst they were all waiting. But I found that after 5 years, I wasn't learning and growing anymore. And I really wanted to go back into industry to expand my skill set. And I did. So what I did was, do you know what? I've got a bit mixed up here, because before then, whilst I was running the secretarial business and I had the children, I also went to college for 2 nights a week for 2 years. I was studying accountancy, and that was a really big commitment because it was 4 hours a night. And I didn't have time to do any work in between. But on top of that, my husband at the time, Brian, was running Burnley Cricket Club. And as part of that, you know, I did the catering. So I wasn't just running my own business and attending college and having 2 children. I was also doing the catering at Burnley Cricket Club. And then one of my clients from a secretarial business introduced me to the network marketing business. And it was like a revelation to me. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. You know, I love this philosophy of being able to make money whilst helping other people to do the same. And whilst I was in the network marketing business, I attended a training course that they were doing on work-life balance. And when I looked at my work and my life, I realised, oh my goodness, I've got this so wrong. I am so out of balance. And I made some decisions, and I went home and said to Brian, I said, we're going to have to let go of the work at the cricket club. Can't continue to do this. It's like, what are we doing it for? We've got 2 young children that we never see. Somebody else is bringing them up. Working all the hours God sends, with no social life. We can't take the children out at weekends because of work. So, you know, we made some decisions, and one of those was that, you know, the club had to go. And then we sort of changed our lifestyle and started to get back into balance. Then Brian got ill, and he was off work for 2 years with ME, and I became the breadwinner. But then I wanted to return into industry, because it can be tough running your own business, you know, because you're not getting sick pay if you're off work. You know, you're not getting holiday pay. If you go on holiday, you're getting paid for the hours that you work in. And so I decided to return into industry. And I took a job as PA to the managing director of another window company. And I did really well in that company, and I got promoted to quality manager. I had responsibility for training and health and safety. I got seconded to the purchasing department, and I gathered a whole range of new skills, which later on were to come in really, really useful. Because I do believe that, you know, every job that we take, we're learning more, we're getting new skills, more knowledge, and expanding what we can do. But I left that company, and that's because there was a big values conflict, and I felt that I couldn't continue to work there. And the value conflict was that I was treated really well, but the shop floor staff were treated not very nicely, and you know, and I really didn't like this us and them mentality from the higher management team. So I got a job working in the training industry. And I worked in the training industry for 5 years, starting off as an NVQ assessor, assessing customer service and business admin. And then they asked me if I'd move on to the management NVQs, which I did. And then I got promoted to commercial business manager. And I loved that because I was going out, doing a lot of visits in companies, helping them with setting up processes, looking at what worked, what didn't. And there again, getting a whole host of new skills. But then in my 40s, I decided I wanted to change jobs, and I was looking for another job, and I was offered the job of business support manager at Burnley Enterprise Trust, which I took, and it was absolutely fabulous. I loved every aspect of it. It met all my criteria in jobs. And then I was promoted to executive director. And then what happened was all the elements of the job that I loved were delegated to other people. And I found that I had my head in the finances, in all the project management. I had an office which didn't have any windows, so I wasn't getting any sunlight. And I started to feel really down about the work that I was doing. There were certain aspects of it that I loved, but certain aspects that I didn't love. And so I spoke to, you know, the board of directors and arranged for my job to be changed around so that somebody else was doing the finances and I could do more of what I loved. And to me, this is a lesson that, you know, if you're in a job and you're not loving what you're doing, change it, because there's nothing worse than being stuck in a job and hating it. You know, you're at work most of your life. What happened was that whilst I was working as exec director, I was age 44, and I found out that my husband was planning to leave me when we came back from our annual holiday. And we went on holiday. We went through an amicable separation and divorce, and I thank him now for that gift, because it really was a spiritual awakening for me. And had that not happened, you know, I could have been stuck because of conditioning that I'd had through religion and through society about marriages, staying together. So I was really grateful to have that opportunity to find myself again. And in 2005, I actually became one of my own outputs at Burnley Enterprise Trust when we set up a Women into Business project, because I became so inspired with running my own business again that I left and set up Global Hugs, which was my coaching and training business. And I did a lot of personal development and work on myself during that time, and knew that I needed to create an income because my household expenses had doubled in the divorce settlement. The income had halved, and I needed to create another source of income. And so I offered supported lodgings to homeless teenagers for 5 years through a charity called Child Action Northwest. So that helped pay the mortgage, and it also helped me to develop my skills further, because in the meantime I trained as a youth coach, and it meant that I could give something back to some of the young people that really needed that support. So I turned 50, right? And I reevaluated my life, and I decided it was time to put me first. And so I gave my son and daughter, who were aged 24 and 22 at the time, 6 months' notice to leave home. I sold my house to my next door neighbour, so I didn't even need to put it on the market, and gave away most of my possessions, which was a hugely liberating thing to do, but also a very emotional thing to do. And it meant that I was like losing attachment to things, because I've been so attached to stuff, and I really got that it had kept me trapped for so long, and letting go of it really freed me up. But it was very hugely liberating. And what happened was that, I was in a new relationship with a dear friend called Paul, and we did a 2-month road trip through Europe, and I always remember handing over the keys to my house to my next door neighbour, quickly packing some stuff away, throwing the tent in the boot, and then setting off at 2 o'clock in the morning to drive down the motorway. And as the furthest south I got, we were heading towards Dover to get the ferry up to Calais. And the further south I got, I just started to feel giddy, and I just started to feel, oh my God, I've done it. Oh, I've done it. I'm free. And I felt lighter and lighter and lighter. And I witnessed the most spectacular sunrise, as I was driving down the motorway, and I just had tears of joy streaming down my face. And as I'm talking about it now, I can just really reconnect to that emotion. And Paul and I spent a wonderful 2 months driving around Europe. We drove down through Belgium and Germany, Switzerland, into Italy, and spent some time in Damanhur, which was a spiritual community. And we spent time, in a villa. For the first week, I just needed time to chill out and recuperate, because it had been totally exhausting working around the clock to clear my house and get rid of everything, and it was emotionally draining. So for the first week, we're in a villa in Tuscany, and I was just not wanting to do anything. I think I went to Florence on one occasion, to see the sights, and apart from that, I did very little. But after that, we went to the Damanhur spiritual community, which was fascinating, and then we drove through to France, and I visited a lot of the Mary Magdalene sites in France and the Cathar sites, and for me that was like revisiting past lives. And as I was driving around, I was reading a book called The Labyrinth by Kate Moss, and it was becoming alive, because as I was reading about these places in the book, we were visiting them at the same time. And it just was a hugely healing process as well. Anyway, after the pilgrimage around France, it was time for us to come back north. And we were driving. We've been staying with a friend, Yvonne Halling, who was in the Champagne region of France, and we left her to travel up the motorway to get the ferry back to from Calais to Dover. And as I was driving up the motorway, the steering just jammed up. The car started to go into a spin. I had no control over it whatsoever, and I just called in my angels for protection, and so did Paul. And we came to an abrupt halt on the hard shoulder, and the car had to be towed off the motorway, but we were unharmed. But the car was a write-off. Because it was gearbox failure. The insurance company wouldn't pay out because I'd been honest with them, told them that it was mechanical failure, and apparently that is an exclusion in your motor insurance. So do check your policies to make sure that what you're covered for. That was a learning for me. And it was also part of the letting go process of the vehicle. So we came back to the UK. And my plan was I was going to get a visa and then to travel around India. But when I came back to the UK, it turned out that my dad was ill, and he was my mum's main carer. So I ended up caring for both parents and moving in with them for 2 years. And that was a very healing process for all of us. And it really helped me to rebuild a relationship with my parents, which in my teenage years hadn't been that great. But I still went away on shorter trips. I didn't let it stop me from travelling. So in 2011, I spent a wonderful 19 days travelling through Egypt. And in 2012, I went on a tour through Mexico, and then went on a pilgrimage in Guatemala for 12-12-12. And then whilst I was in Guatemala, I was due to fly back on the 13th of December. And my intuition was telling me to stay. And so I told Paul that I wasn't going home and I was going to stay in Guatemala by myself. And I ended up having some extraordinary adventures, especially in 2112. I was in a Mayan ceremonial centre for 3 days, having really profound experiences. And so obviously that's why I was meant to stay. And so one of the things that I just want to get over in the webinar is about trusting your instincts and following your intuition. And even though you might have made plans, don't be frightened of cancelling them and changing them. Have the flexibility to do that. Then I've moved back in with my parents, when I returned from Guatemala. And in 2013, it was September, I bought a one-way ticket to Peru. Up there again, I was following my intuition. And when synchronicities happen in life, I always follow them, no matter how crazy they might seem. And I didn't have any money at the time, but I was getting a lot of synchronicities to go. And my sister lent me some money. She lent me £1,000. And with that £1,000, I did a retreat in the Amazon rainforest. And I also went to Machu Picchu. I'd already bought my retreat, but I went to Machu Picchu. And I ended up spending 11 incredible months in South America. And part of that time I was in the Amazon rainforest, working with the sacred plant medicines and living with the Shipibo tribe, which was liberating because it really helped me to work through some of these programs that are so deeply ingrained in us that we sometimes do things on automatic pilot because we don't know what's going on subconsciously. So I was given the opportunity to see these programs and to remove them, which there again was liberating. Whilst I was in Peru, I ran out of money a few times, but I just offered a prayer. I said, look, universe, I do not want to go home. I want to stay in Peru. So please find a solution. And when you ask for help, it's amazing what can happen. And every single time I've been supported. And that's been like I did a work exchange. I find myself going up to the mountains of Kiabamba and living on a coffee plantation for a month, and looking after an elderly lady who was coming to end of life. And she died after I was there for 3 months, and being there when she passed over was such a privilege and a rite of passage. I also followed my intuition, and I actually was offered a work exchange in living around in Cantombo in a retreat centre in Peru. And I was getting free food and free accommodation, and I was there for 9 weeks. And that's actually where I did my first house sit as well, when the people who were running the retreat centre, there was Eleonora and Jorge, went off travelling, and I was there to run the retreat centre, which we were offering like B&B accommodation. And I was also looking after the puppies, so I didn't even know I was house sitting back in those days. It just sort of came about as me being there. And I spent lots of time whilst I was in Peru going within and spending time alone, which was the first time in my whole life that I'd ever had the opportunity to do that. Being the eldest of 5 girls didn't give me any opportunity at home to do that. And then getting married and having a family and always being busy, it just never came into my life at all. So I felt very privileged to have that time alone, because I really found myself, and I learned to just completely love and accept myself, and get rid of all these like unworthiness programs that have been lurking around for so long, and just loved every single minute. And it was like I was living in the fifth dimension every day. Honestly, I was living joy and bliss, and just absolutely, I'm so grateful to have had that experience. And then I ended my travels in Brazil at John of God's Healing Centre, where I was for 5 weeks, and actually spending even more time alone after having psychic surgery, where you've got to spend 24 hours by yourself doing absolutely nothing. And that was a real gift. I do recommend that you try that. I returned from Brazil and moved in with Paul, which was the first time that we'd lived together. And I spent 6 months of doing nothing, just being in bliss, doing the things that brought me most joy, like being in nature and painting and walking and spending time with my family. And then I thought, I really need to do something. I need to create an income now. And in 2015, in the May, Paul and I were actually at the Yoga Festival. It was in Manchester. And we were offering free hugs for 3 days. And it was during that show that I experienced doTERRA's essential oils for the first time. And I followed my intuition, and I bought a set of oils. Even though I didn't have any money, I did have a credit card. As I say, I always follow my intuition. And that has been life-changing for me. And it's led not just, to a new life, it's led to a new career completely. In December 2016, on the 26th of December, which was Boxing Day, Paul and I changed our relationship status to friends, and it was actually our 9th anniversary of getting together. And this is what I love about having a conscious relationship, the fact that you can reevaluate and still have a beautiful friendship beyond breaking up. And we've continued to have this beautiful friendship. And whenever I return back up north to visit my family, I come and stay with Paul, and that's where I'm doing this webinar from now. I actually moved out of Paul's house on the 1st of January 2017, and I started my first house and pet sitting gig. I just felt that would be a really good solution to me being able to have some space again. And so since 2011, just to summarise, I've had no household bills, no mortgage, not had any rent since selling my house. And what it's done, it's freed me to travel and to follow my heart and to really trust my intuition and to act on it. And in the meantime, what I've done is created an income which enables me to support that time. So this lifestyle has been supported through various ways. In my doTERRA business, which I can operate online, so long as I've got a good internet connection, I can operate it from anywhere in the world. I've got 5 different ways of creating an income, and that supports me financially. I make money through doing bioresonance scans with people and essential oil consultations. And sometimes I do the bioresonance scans for free as an active service. For example, I support the free healing days at the monastery in Manchester, and we do that on a free of charge basis. I create an income through running raw chocolate workshops, vegan chocolate, which is healthy, and using essential oils for flavourings. I create an income through charging for house and pet sitting services. I offer therapies, so sometimes I might do aroma touch therapies, sacred anointings, healing, etc. Now and again, not very often now, I'll be asked to help somebody and I'll offer coaching for them, so I create an income that way. I earn affiliate commissions through various affiliate programs of products that I absolutely love or use myself, and I'm happy to recommend them to other people. And then through me sharing a link, I get an affiliate commission. And also, like, quite often I do acts of service with people, and they reward me with donations. You know, they might give me donations of food or clothing, or sometimes it's monetary as well. So, you know, we can get creative, and there's lots and lots of ways that we can create an income. These are some of the vehicles that I use. You know, I've got my house and pet sitting logo, Mastery Path events, Global Hugs, Magdalene Spiritual Journeys. Magdalene Wellness is my main one, and this is my website. And it was whilst I was in Peru that I actually got introduced to the Red Tent, and through participating in the Red Tent, I actually won a scholarship to the Pleasure Tribe, and this is where Rachel and I met. So it was through an online community in 2014, and in 2016 Rachel joined my doTERRA team. She bought a set of oils, loved them, and wants to share them with other people. And then this year in 2017 we're co-creating a retreat together in Glastonbury. So Rachel, would you like to unmute yourself, and I will hand over to you, and you can share your journey and how you've created and what your plan is.
Brilliant. Thank you, Debra. I can't, you know, just reading all of that and seeing that, I can't believe that so much is similar in our lives and yet quite different. So you'll see that. Just to set this up, this is my story, but just to set this up, I think it's right for me to say I spent 7 years of my childhood living in the most amazing place, the Persian Gulf, and that has had a bearing on, you'll see why and what's happening for me and where I'm going. So this is my story. So I am the only entrepreneur in my family. I always felt very different, and my first venture into business was a retail saddlery. I was 28, I had my own horse, I was competing as cross-country with my own horse, and also competing with some farmers' horses that I'd worked for as well. Life of a farmer, I should say, a mother of a 1-year-old. But I always knew that the business that I would run would be retail, although I had no clue as to what it was going to be. Now, I'd trained at a riding centre in Harrogate, or just outside Harrogate, when I was in my early 20s. And it just seemed the most logical as well. Obviously, I knew the product of saddlery very well, so I researched it and opened up my saddlery business the year after my son was born. So it was his first birthday that I opened it up, and that was in 1988. See, Debra, there are lots of synergy here. Loved it. There's photographic evidence of me as a child, both here in the UK and in Iran, of me selling things in my shop, my imaginary shop. I was always making stuff, whether it was dolls' clothes or food or whatever. So but sadly, my divorce meant I had to literally sell it all, and that included my beautiful competition horse, and begin again. So I moved down south. As far south as you can get. I'm on the south coast of the UK. I'm from Lincolnshire originally. I've lived in Norfolk, Hampshire, Wiltshire. Where else did I live? Harrogate for a while, just outside Harrogate for a while. So I've moved around the country quite a lot, but never really felt at home in the UK. So after my divorce, I kind of went back to my roots. I'd started my career as a secretary, and I'd worked for farmers. I'd also worked in the legal industry and was going to follow a legal career because I just find it really easy. And my own solicitor said, you should do this as a career and take your legal exams, which I was going to do. But then I fell pregnant, and that's when everything changed. But I absolutely have found those skills to be so useful in all the work that I've done over the years. I've always been able to fall back on them. And like Debra had done, I used to type CVs when people asked you to do it and didn't do it themselves, and theses. People, I did all of that too. And I did some of that after my divorce because obviously I needed an income as well. But it's certainly been very, very useful. And the legal work has been incredibly useful, not just for myself, but also for any contract work that I've done, because I find writing legal documents really easy. So in my mid-30s, moving down south away from all my family with a young child to support and no support from my ex-husband, which I was more surprised about than anything, I decided to go back to university and do some studying myself. So some further studying. I needed a change of direction. I wanted to up-level my skills. And the one thing that's been so is my sport, my health, my fitness, my dance, all of that. So I went and did a sports science degree. And it was in that time that your own health and fitness consultancy. So I actually set up a limited company, and it was mostly health, fitness, and a bit of nutrition. But equally, there were other my asked to run events. I seemed to just have that as a natural skill. And so I set up one side of that business to be events management, and in fact did a lot of sports events, just, small ones, local ones, and dance. And then I ended up doing some business networking events and running those, and then social networking for ladies. So I have done a lot of events management, and the dance took me to be on the managing team of Salsa UK. So our huge international congress and I did that for 3 years on top of what that was another side. And then somebody introduced me. I have skin problems, well, not problems. I've got allergies, and that's very much part of my family history. So I'm always very careful with the products I use and the food I eat because I've got so many allergies. And a friend just gave me this facial and said, I think you'd love this and do this. So actually it was network marketing, and like Debra, I had never come across this before. And I just added it to my health and fitness consultancy, which fitted really well because so many of my fitness people also were into health and wanted natural products. So I did that for a while and absolutely loved it. And that was ticking along quite nicely. I mean, most of my clients were from the health and fitness were either companies, small companies who wanted to take me on board to help their employees, or they were individuals. But then in my 40s, an opportunity sort of came by my bow, and I thought this would be ridiculous not to take it up. And it was an opportunity to be a professional business advisor as an employee. So I was going back into employed work, but it was a fabulous job because it was like running your own business, but having a salary, a regular income, and under the umbrella, obviously, of a national company, this particular one was. We were out in the field all the time, and my manager, I mean, I've never been managed up until that point. Well, he didn't even really manage me. He just used to phone me and say, are you okay? Happy with your work? We'll meet up next time you're in whatever place, because we had our own patch, and I covered quite a big patch down here in Sussex. But sadly, after 4.5 years assisting over 1,000 startups, some of them were just starting up in business and others were in business already, so I was helping them sort of take their business to the next level. I became very ill with thyroid problems. It was a personal breakup of another relationship, and I'm very, very ill. And what had happened was, we didn't realize, but I crashed one weekend because I'd been running on empty for about 2 years, being very high energy because of my fitness and my sport. I hadn't really registered. I knew I was getting really tired, and I knew I was putting on a little weight, but I just thought it was the second spectacularly one weekend, and I couldn't get out of bed. So that Monday morning I went to the doctor and burst into tears, and I said, this is not like me. And he said, no, it's not, certainly not like you, not at all like you. We better do some checks and find out what's wrong. And I said, I think it's my thyroid because one of my sisters and my mum have got this problem. They thought mine would go the opposite way to theirs, overactive, but it actually went underactive. So I had to take an enforced career break, and that I thought would be about 6 months, and that was the only real reason why I decided to take the career break, because I thought it'd be about 6 months. It turned into 18 months because it takes quite some time for you to start to feel pretty normal again. So it took a lot longer than I thought, and in that time I had, like Debra with her car insurance, I had life cover, and got onto my policyholder when this happened and I had to take a career break, only to find that I'd been paying into this wonderful plan and it didn't cover what happened to me. So I promptly cancelled it because I was absolutely livid. So I had no money whatsoever, but I had to take this career break. But then when I started to look for work again, I found it quite difficult to find the kind of job that I had been doing previously. And I ended up working with our regional chamber of commerce in a job that was way beneath my capabilities, and I absolutely hated. I liked our members, but I didn't like the actual job and the actual place. And in fact, as a business advisor myself, I look to that company and say, which they're not in business anymore, and it's like not surprising because I look to them to say, this is how not to run a business. So I was actually relieved to be made redundant in 2010, even though I couldn't afford to be, but that was just a new start. And that was when I realized I probably was not meant to work for anybody other than myself. And I couldn't rely on a job to give me the fulfillment that I craved. And of course, at that time, there were a lot of redundancies right across the board. I am not corporate. I've never been corporate. I don't do boxes. I don't fit into their boxes. And they always say, oh, you're very creative, aren't you? To which my response is, and your point is? So post-redundancy, what was I going to do? I was at one of my usual networking events. I was still out there networking, and I became self-employed, and I happened to meet up with a lovely, lovely lady at one of them, and she was in financial education. Now, this is personal, on the personal finance, whereas I had obviously had business finance. So that was actually network marketing as well, and that I fell into and found it really easy because it was just like an extension of what I already did. So I pulled that under my belt as well and started doing that. And she and I together used to run workshops, small workshops. So I'd do the business side and she'd do the financial side, and we'd bring it all together. And so our clients were actually getting an awful lot more, and we were just sort of splitting the money between us, which was great. And I'd also gone back into some events management. I was doing, asked to do various bits and pieces. So again, that's something that I've always been able to fall back on. But then I was doing some contract work, delivering business startup workshops. That came about in 2012, and I got going really, really well with those. But we were funded, and unfortunately, like everything, the funding dried up in 2013. So again, it forced my hand to go to look at my own and say, okay, I've got all of these skills, I've got so much information. Do I really need to be doing anything for anybody else? So the universe was actually speaking to me very loudly at this point and giving me a kick up the backside. So I actually sat down and thought, okay, well, I can carry on doing these workshops, and I am a business mentor, so I'll carry on doing that. And my business has evolved quite considerably in that time, from 2013, from what it was then as a business mentor and startup trainer, to the wisdom mentor, which is what I became, bringing all of my work under the umbrella of the wisdom mentor. And now it's House of Feminine, which is my 5th business. And the last 2, so the wisdom mentor and House of Feminine, I actually brought all of my skills, knowledge, and experience together into one business. And interestingly, when I was delivering the business startup workshops, I had so many females saying to me at the end of the 2 days, I really need your help. And what you talked about your own experiences has helped me so much, because I've got so many skills and I don't know which way to go, and I'd like to try and bring them all together. So actually I work very, very well with females who have a lot of different skills, who want to try and bring it all under one umbrella, into one business, rather than just focusing maybe on one specific thing. So that was liberating in itself, to release myself from the grip of relying on others for a source of income. To do, but I was putting up with their set of rules, their agendas, them taking the credit for all the work that I'd been doing, and adding to their business income and reputation more than mine. And I was not very pleased about that, because I was going out of my way to do more than I actually should, and not getting the credit for it. So I thought, no, there's something not right here. This isn't good at all. And then, of course, the liberating thing and the great thing about when you're not, there's no more suits. My suits have gone. There's no more 9 to 5. There's no, not that I don't think I ever did 9 to 5, except when I first started work when I was in my 20s. No more commuting, no more office politics, which I certainly don't do, and no fitting my life around work. So living in my joy, well, I started following my purpose, passion, and destiny. Plus, being able to fit my work around my exercise and my life routines brings me huge joy, and I have to do that. My exercise and fitness is absolutely paramount, so I actually need to be able to do that first and then get on with my day. I don't like having to exercise in the evening after work or anything, so I'm glad that I can fit it in when I want to do it. And being free to explore new opportunities. And this was a big one for me, because being a typical entrepreneur mind, I like when something new comes my way, if it really fits with what I'm doing, I want to be free to explore, not necessarily follow, but explore whether I want to do that. And when you work for yourself, that is exactly what you can do. There are so many possibilities out there that come your way. I love learning new skills, and when you're in a job, sometimes you're restricted because you're doing one specific kind of job, whereas now I have learned so many technical skills over the last 2 years, like building my own websites and things. And in fact, I actually love doing stuff like that, even though sometimes well, it's a labor of love, but I absolutely do love it. I can undertake training, any type of training I want, whenever I want, the types of courses I need, rather than having to rely on somebody else and say, well, I want to do this training, and then say, well, no, we only train you in that if we're going to promote you to that. So I can do what I want when I want, which is great to add to my skills. And also I thrive on autonomy, so I enjoy overcoming any fears, barriers, and challenges myself, and I just love getting out there and doing it. So being a multipotentialite, which is a person who is multi-skilled, and perhaps when they were young didn't know exactly what they wanted to do. And there is a great TED talk on this, so go find it out. Just type in Google multipotentialite, because the lady who does it is absolutely brilliant, and I've actually assimilated that word into all my business, because a lot of my clients are exactly like me, multipotentialites. So all my skills, knowledge, experience are extensive, but it was during meeting with a friend. He is a branding expert, and we'd known each other through networking for a while, and I was stuck with moving my business forward and didn't know, because I was a business mentor, but I wanted to do more and I didn't know what to do. So I sat down with him, and he helped me see that I could bring all my skills under one banner. I didn't have to take away the health and fitness away from the business, because we were looking at the person as a whole. So, but he revealed even more skills that I perhaps overlooked or underrated, like my financial skills, the financial education. He had no idea I did that at all. Sales, I sell by default. And yet he said, no, you've got great sales skills. You just don't realize you've got them, because what you do is just talk to people. And that, yes, I have got this skill. Training. Well, I've trained staff for my shop. I have trained sports people. I've done all sorts of things, and I'm a natural leader. So all of those things are relevant, that weren't necessarily, some of them weren't apparent to me, but he actually said, yes, they are. So in 2017, where I'm at now, is that I've been able to bring all my diverse life work under House of Feminine, which is embody your pleasure, vitality, and freedom, in order to follow my dream to live in Spain with an international online business, which has many different income streams and is developing into product lines. So I've come full circle back to retail, because at the moment I'm in talks, because House of Feminine has evolved and is continuing to evolve. I'm currently in talks with some local ladies, because I want a line of jewelry, a line of clothing. What was the other? Someone makes some beautiful essence perfumes, which natural perfumes, and she'll maybe do some specifically sell hers on my website. And the friend of mine makes amazing skin scrubs, having all of this. So it will be lined specifically for House of Feminine, which is so brilliant. And it's like, yes, this is what I wanted to do for a long time, back to retail. But I didn't necessarily want a retail shop. So what is pleasure? It's the divine feminine: relationships, sensuality, sexuality. Vitality is health and well-being, so that's your health, fitness, and nutrition, and the essential oils. Freedom is lifestyle entrepreneurs, which is what I am, because I'm going to go and live in Spain. And that covers entrepreneurship, financial education, and wealth building. And this is my new logo, House of Feminine. I'm still using my current website, The Wisdom Mentor, and House of Feminine. I've bought the domain name, so I'm currently deciding on the theme for that. And global retreats is another one, because Debra and I are going to be running retreats together. And that's how I think my platform is going to be. Although I do courses and I do a lot of mentoring still on a one-to-one, I can do online courses, some small courses, but I think retreats are going to be definitely the platform for me to going forward. And of course, I've got my wisdom health. There was another thing. It's getting awfully dark in here. That I was going to put my light on. I was just going to mention, in moving to Spain, very quickly, what I am doing is getting rid of most of my stuff. Like Debra, I'm literally just offloading stuff. And that in itself has been extremely challenging, because although I've done this a number of times in my life, got rid of stuff and then I created a lovely home just recently, 5 years ago. I moved into a lovely home, and I created this amazing home, and for myself and my grown-up son, who is coming to Spain with me. It was something I clearly needed to do. But what happened then was, I've realized just recently that I have been wanting to go and live in Spain for about 15 years. It's been in my business plan for a long time. And my house suddenly became my prison, because I've got so much stuff. So I went into overwhelm and then sat down and wrote lists. So I've got 4 lists, and it goes like this: Spain, what's coming with us to Spain, what's going into storage, what is going to charity or staying in the house, just staying in situ, I'll just leave it here, and what is being sold. And this in itself is both challenging and liberating. So it's an amazing experience, and I just can't get over how much synergy there is between Debra's and my life. We're exactly the same age as well, and the times of things happening have been almost identical, not quite. So I'm just going to I've done now, so I'm going to put my light on, because it's getting really dark in here. So hang on a minute.
It's quite remarkable, the overlap in our journeys, and I didn't realise till tonight how much overlap there has been, Rachel. It's quite interesting. Yeah. So,
okay.
So have a think. If you're watching this webinar, have a think about your own skills audit. We've both talked tonight about different skills that we've personally accumulated over our 50 years. So do your own skills audit, and you can break them down into different areas. So what personal skills do you have? What life skills do you have? Business skills, communication skills, technology skills, relationships. You know, we have skills in so many different areas. So if you categorize them and then list them all out, and what I did, I read a brilliant, it was a package by a guy called J. Abraham, who's a marketing genius. And I bought his CD package, and it was called Your Secret Wealth Inventory. And in this package, he said, do your own skills audit. And I must have spent weeks doing mine and writing them all down. And I did it in a spreadsheet, and I made like different columns. And then I brought it all together like into one document. And when you do this exercise, it's like list everything that you can do. Think about where have you worked in the past? What knowledge have you got? So, for example, when I was working at the window company, you know, I had knowledge as a quality manager. I had health and safety knowledge. I knew about training. I knew about purchasing because I was a seconded to the purchasing department. I knew about inventory. I knew about buying. You know, so there's lots of skills that we pick up, you know, it just with one company. So write them all down, list everything that you do. And when you actually do this, you'll find that you know a lot more than you gave yourself credit for. But also then have a look at the list and see what do you absolutely love doing. Because if you're looking at creating an income going forward, you want to do things that you're in your joy doing, that you would do whether or not you got paid for it, right? So don't do work that you hate. Do work that you absolutely love. Rachel, have you got anything to add to the skills audit?
Not to add to it, but in terms of what is there, but it's so true because when I was working in events management, one of I was a co-partner in a ladies' social networking group, and the owner of the group, she decided she wanted to maybe take it in franchising, and I ended up not just writing the business plan, but also writing everything, the ops manual, if you like, for if we were going to franchise it, because I just found it so easy to do. And she said, she just went, wow. And I said, look, will you just get your, I know I've probably done everything correctly, but will you just get your solicitor to run over it to make sure everything is fine? Because it had to be compliant because you need to, when it's franchising, everybody needs to be doing the same thing. Honest to God, he sent it away and they came back and said no changes. So it showed me that after all these years, I mean, because I was 20, 23, 24 when I was a legal secretary, but it showed me that I still had those very valuable skills to be able to do. So, you know, if somebody needed any legal document writing, whether it is a confidentiality agreement or something like that, I can do it, no problem. Sure. So, you know, those kinds of things, they never change. I mean, legal jargon just very tiny. So, you know, it's just thinking about things thinking about things laterally rather than literally. The skills that we've got, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and think outside the box. You know, it could be like you've got a skill with playing with children or helping people to understand complex information in very simple ways. You know, so just think outside the box and look at all those things, because once you actually do this exercise, you'll find that it increases your self-esteem. Oh my goodness, you think, wow, cool, that's amazing.
It is just saying that, not me, but my son. My son is adult, but we're going to live in Spain. And, you know, he is really, really good at teaching other children things. He did the Duke of Edinburgh Award, and he was playing tennis. That was one of his things he was doing. He ended up coaching, even though he was being coached, he ended up coaching others. And I said to him, although he was never interested in doing the sports science side of things, just recently he said to me, do you know something? I might do a TEFL course. and teach English as a foreign language in Spain. And I thought, brilliant. He's so good with children and young people. He's brilliant. So, he was thinking outside the box. I didn't for him at all, but he thought of it himself. So it made, and not only that he'd thought of it, but I could see him doing it, no problem. I might even do it.
And these are transferable skills, so you can transfer skills that you've learnt in one industry to another industry. So the next thing I want to look at is, how free are you right now? Are you tied to your work, career, business, house, family? I was tied to my family, and that's why I made the decision to sell the house, and best thing I ever did for them. Would you do this work whether or not you got paid? That goes back to what I was saying before. Do things that you love, that you enjoy doing. How many hours a week do you currently work? Do you have a passive income? That means, do you get paid whether you work or not? Right? Because if you're constantly swapping time for money, like when I was self-employed, if I didn't work, I didn't get paid. So by creating a passive income, which is something that we can do in the network marketing industry and in some other industries, well, then you're creating an income whether you get paid or not. Do you have multiple streams of income? What that does is guarantee you an income stream if one of those other sources gets cut off, which can happen. What about retirement? Do you have a pension plan? I don't. And when I retire, there won't be enough money in the pot anyway for all the baby boomers who are coming up to retirement age. It's there's just not enough money in the pot, so we have to plan for our own retirement, and we need to start doing that now. So we need to put things in place to give us that income as we grow older. And what about visiting the places? Have you been to all the places that you want to see on this beautiful planet Earth? There are so many gorgeous places. So have a think, write out a list of all the places that you want to visit, and then look at how you can build that into your lifestyle. And this one's really important. Are you experiencing joy and bliss every day? And it's important that you do that, because that raises your vibration. When you raise your vibration, you manifest quicker. If you're not experiencing joy and bliss, change your lifestyle. Because you can create anything that you want. You can create anything. So what life do you want to create for yourself? You might say, well, what's stopping you as well? And people then come up with all excuses. Well, it's all right for you doing that. I can't do that.
Oh, I was so totally in my comfort zone, and I knew it. And like I said, my home became my prison, and it was like I was in my comfort zone, and I knew I needed something to get me out of it. And what happened was I actually put it out there on Facebook and said, I am going to Spain in 18 months. And, we're on the countdown now. And once you do that, it really gets the ball rolling. But before that, it was only in my business plan, and my close friends knew that that's what I wanted to do. But as soon as and I'm jumping off cliffs at the moment with expanding House of Feminine, but I know that I've got to do it. I've just got to go out there and do it. And you don't have to have all the answers either.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when you make a public declaration, it's like makes it official. And then you'll start to then work towards it.
Exactly.
When I was exec director at Burnley Enterprise Trust, we had a board meeting. I'd attended Tony Robbins' Life Mastery Programme in Scotland, and decided that I wanted to start living my purpose. And we had a board meeting 3 days later when I returned to work, and I said, gentlemen, I have got an announcement to make. I'm giving you 9 months' notice. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I just done?
Yeah.
And then that's when I set up my coaching and training business. But I made that public declaration, because when you do that, you're committing. And when you commit to something, that's when the universe starts to put things in place for you to make it possible for you.
Exactly. And you know, our time in the Pleasure Tribe, a lot of those teachers, they are, you know, a step or two ahead of us and where we are. They've got big coaching programs and things, and or products that they're selling, and I've affiliated myself with those teachers, so I get a passive income just by promoting, sometimes whether it's a program they're selling, or whether it is you know, launching, or whether it is a new product they're launching. So I get that coming in, and it's great, because it's like, well, you've just got these little bits of income coming in all over the place, but they're not my real business, but I'm affiliated with them and they're aligned with what I do. So it's perfect.
Yeah. And of course, like, you know, we're collaborating now, and we're doing the retreat in Glastonbury, 22nd to 24th of September, which is a non-residential 3-day retreat. The price for that is £247, but we've got an early bird special until the end of July, where it's just 222. And the first 7 people to book will get a free iToby bioresonance scan and consultation too. And this is for ladies who want to design a new life and create an income whilst exploring different parts of the world, or relocating, like Rachel, on a temporary or permanent basis, like Rachel's going to Spain. What we're going to be covering on the retreat, day 1, we're going to be doing individual exercises, pair work, group work, looking at where we are now, where we want to be, and how we can close that gap. Everybody's going to be going away from this retreat with an action plan, so you know what it is that you personally want to do in order to create your own dream life. But in order to do this, you see, one of the major barriers is your mindset. And so we're going to be doing some work around what beliefs do we have, what rules and values do we have, what are our needs, what are the barriers that we need to overcome, what are the skills that we've got. So we want everybody to really do some work on this skills audit. We're going to be visiting some sacred sites as well and doing work there, because when we're working in sacred sites, energetically, this is helping us to support our intentions. And Glastonbury is a real powerhouse on the planet. It's the heart chakra of the whole planet. And we've got the intersection of 2 major ley lines at Chalice Well. We're going to be going to beautiful Magdalene Chapel. We're going to be doing labyrinths, going up Glastonbury tour. And I actually selected these dates for the webinar because it coincides with the autumn equinox, which then magnifies the intentions even more. So these dates are very specifically in there. And also on the Thursday, if you want to travel down on the Thursday, there's an event at Chalice Well as well for the equinox, which I'll be attending.
Yeah, the retreat, not webinar. Yeah, the retreat.
Sorry, the retreat, yeah. The next thing that we're going to be doing why is it not going down? I'm just trying to turn over to page 2 and it's not letting me go. Oh, there we go.
There you go. Day 2.
So day 2, we're going to be focusing on how to create an income whilst you're travelling, releasing blockages that you might have, helping to raise your vibration. You'll be designing your life, and you are going to be bringing it into reality on this retreat, because we're going to be doing some grounding exercises, clearing your energy field. We're going to be talking about surrendering to the divine plan and trusting your intuition. And we're going to be giving you lots of preparation and practical information in order to do with travelling. I've also had people that have said to me that they're not interested in the travel aspect of this retreat, but they are interested in doing a spiritual retreat with me. And for those people, I'm going to be doing alternative exercises so that they're going to be getting something of equal value. We're also going to be looking at technology and useful apps to use whilst you're travelling and making an income. Also, what's good to take in an emergency first aid kit, and what things you need to let go of in order to make all this happen. And then day 3 on the Sunday, this is all going to be outdoors. We're going to be doing a ceremony at the top of Glastonbury Tour. We're going to be visiting the White Spring, and if you want to bathe in the cleansing water, you can do. It's a clothing optional place, and I actually went to Glastonbury tour 2 days ago, and very powerful energies up there. And I called into the White Spring on the way back after doing a Facebook Live from the top of the tour. And I just felt really drawn to going into the water, and I didn't have a towel with me or anything. And it just felt like the most natural thing in the world just to take my clothes off and get into the water and do a cleansing ceremony. And then I got out, and it's really dark, and you don't get people in there that are voyeurs or anything like that. It's a very safe place. But you don't have to do that, but that's an optional thing. And I'll tell you what, when I came out, I was totally cleansed and refreshed. And a friend met up with me later who's really into energy work, and she said, "My goodness, what have you been doing? You're so clear." But we're going to be going to Chalicewell Garden, which is included in the cost of the retreat. And we're going to, if you want to, you can do the labyrinth in the church garden as well. And we're going to have time for questions and answers, because we're going to be having lunch together, which is included in the price. You've got the opportunity then to ask questions that haven't been answered during the retreat. You've got the opportunity to ask questions at any time. And we're also going to give a free gift to people who stay till the end, because we really want you to be there for the whole thing and not leave early. So we want to bribe you to stay till the end. And so that's our retreat. We'd love you to join us. If this is something that you've got any questions on, do feel free to contact myself and Rachel. And this is the event URL. I'll just copy that and I can post it into the chat box. I don't know if that's gone in. Anyway,
no.
Has it gone in?
No, I'm not seeing anything.
More. Everyone, let's try again. There we go. Oh, I don't know where it's going. Anyway, you know how to find it if you want to find it. It's on Eventbrite, and you'll find the event as well on Facebook. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording, and then we're going to open up the webinar for questions. So thank you very much for joining us. If you've got any questions at all, feel free to contact us, and bye for now.
Bye.